You're listening to a fine vintage episode of One More Sip of the Garden Mixer, our after-hours show that drops every other week between bigger sips. Interested in newer releases? You can find out how to become a paid subscriber on Substack and get exclusive access for a whole year when you support the show. Gardening shouldn't be boring. More at thegardenmixerpodcast.substack.com. Now back to Vintage One More Sip. Deadheading, Chelsea chopping, post-pruning, pre-pruning. I'm Marianne Wilburn, she's Leslie Harris, and you are listening to One More Sip of the Garden Mixer.
So deadheading is the biggest topic. What is deadheading? I don't think anybody listening to this doesn't know what deadheading is, but you might not know exactly why we do it. So when a plant starts its life, all it wants to do is reproduce. It's like us. We just want to have babies. That's what we're geared for. We have to
Apparently
make
so.
The species must survive. Oh my God. So how are we going to do that? Easiest way for plants to do that is to make flowers and therefore make seeds, and those are their babies. So if you take away those babies,
God, this is sounding so cruel. I didn't sign on for this.
Sorry, we're going to just muddle through. Then the plant is going
Take away their babies.
The plant is going to want to produce more. It's like, oh, really? You took those away? I'm going to do more. So it's going to become more vigorous in its flowering. And for instance, as we talked about in our last full episode, if you're going away on vacation, a great thing to do is to pre-prune a plant or to deadhead ahead so that you come back from the beach, tanned, rested, ready with new flowers in your garden. So deadheading is a thing. Depending on the type of plant, a plant can get more or less fed up with your lack of deadheading. Sometimes it's just like, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm just going to produce flowers no matter what. Just look for that type in your garden and say, thank you very much. But others will say, you need to. Sweet peas, like you got to be out here every day taking away my old baggage or I'm not going to produce new baggage. So it depends on the plant.
So much
right?
baggage, so much baggage. So deadhead, does this work for everything? That's the question. Can you keep everything going if you deadhead? Like, for instance, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Obviously, peonies, lilies, you can't just deadhead those and get a fresh new flower later. And how do you know?
How do you know? You listen to the Garden Mixer and you get new information.
And they tell you, don't deadhead your lilies and peonies or you'll be disappointed.
You'll be very sad.
Yeah, there are some flowers that this doesn't work for.
That's true in terms of deadheading ahead. But yeah, of course, I would always take away the old seed heads from my peony unless I wanted to do that really cool thing of self-sowing peonies. And that is a thing, and that is really fun. It takes forever. But how cute is it to see a little peony baby in your garden? It's worth the wait, honestly.
Yeah, the 2-year wait.
I know. We're getting old here. Come on, peony.
No, it really is. It's like, come on, let's wrap this up.
TikTok, baby. Let's go. I thought you wanted to survive and make more babies. So when you're going to take away old seed heads on flowers, then you're saying to that plant, oh, you know what? Again, taking away your babies. So all you have left in a plant like a peony this season is to produce
It's a sad life.
More foliage and a better root system, and so more flowers next year. So yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's always worth it to try it out with a plant. If it's a new plant, flowering plant to you, it's worth it to try it out. And that's how we experiment and find out. Because there's plenty of plants that will do this. Lots of annuals will do it. You can keep them going. Cornflowers, you can keep cornflowers going by deadheading it. Do you want to deadhead your cornflowers? Is the question, because you've got a lot of little blooms around them and they're spotted all through your perennial bed, and you got to move yourself through your perennial bed to do it. So every single plant, you've got to decide, is it worth it to me, or can I just deal with the one big flush of bloom? A lot of annuals will do it normally. They may not actually clean themselves well, but others will. But a lot of the perennials, when it comes to deadheading, I do try and do as much of that as I possibly can. And my very first experience with that was a Shasta daisy. It was Becky. and
Great plant.
it deadheads so beautifully. And not only are you getting new blooms, it's creating new plants below, those little tiny baby plants that it has on the stems that it does. And
Yeah.
it's such a great plant, but you can really keep that plant moving through the season by consistently cutting those blooms off. Now, little caveat. When I first learned this, it was like one of 4 perennials I had in my garden. I have probably, oh god, I don't even know, 1,000 taxa
Yeah.
out there right now. How can I possibly be deadheading all those plants? I can't. So I have to decide this is the time that the Shasta daisy comes, and then I cut it back because the foliage is beautiful if all of those heads are cut off of it, and I can enjoy the foliage. So you're also doing it just to clean up the plant.
And you're making the decision based on how much it's bothering you, how close to your front door it is, all these things. What about pre-pruning? There are several reasons to pre-prune, one of which is to delay blooming because you're like, "Oh, I'm going to the beach in August, and I'd actually like to see this at the end of August." Another would be if the plant gets floppy. Sedum autumn joy is a perfect example of that. It can get tall, it can flop. If you crop it, it'll look ugly, by the way. Looks Nothing
The
looks worse than a
well,
pre-pruned
what is it?
sedum autumn
It's
joy.
pretty much all of those sedums, and they're no longer sedums. They're Hylocephalum. Am I
Yes.
remembering that right?
Yes, I'm pretty sure you're right.
And those are those ones that are in that autumn joy sort of, if you
Tall.
know that particular sedum titum. There's lemon jade, there's chocolate, there's all these different ones. I am growing autumn fire this
Ooh,
year and last year, and it's a lot smaller, but I'm still stopping it from starting to form those flower heads because I really want it to be more in the autumn that it is blooming, and it's trying to bloom a little bit earlier than I want it. So that's another reason that we quote deadhead or cut back, is to just sort of push that bloom into where you want it to be.
uh,
Going to be different for every plant. This is going to be a trial and error sort of a thing. Some things are very clearly laid out that you can get away with it. Some things you got to figure out for yourself. And as we talked about in in the last episode, with the aid of Professor Shame, who who teaches you you
so
can't do
well,
that. That's not going to work with this
so
one.
well.
But
Hey,
yeah.
I've got a fun trick that I used to do in clients' gardens, and I still do it in my own. Have you ever tier pruned something? So Tier?
Yeah, so I think that, Tracy Sabato Oast goes into that in her book. Oh, it's
Oh,
such a
what is that
well-known
book?
book.
It's such a great
Yeah,
book.
I've actually got 2 copies of it.
Just had the well-groomed perennial garden or something?
Well-tended perennial garden,
Yeah, yeah.
the well-tended perennial garden or something like that, and
Pretty sure,
it's a
yeah.
yeah, it's a very
And so
famous
and so
book.
what that would be, if you're unfamiliar, or if you're illiterate like I am, then you take this big stand of aster, for instance, and you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna prune the front of that really low, and the middle of it, I'll prune a little bit, and the top of it, I'll either prune very lightly or not prune at all, and therefore, the top of it will bloom first, and those will probably be bigger flowers, and the middle of it will bloom next, and the bottom of it will bloom last with little tiny flowers because 'cause you've chopped off these stems, and of course, they've grown out from there. So it's kind of a cool effect to sort of help along succession blooms, if not planting, in your garden.
There's a nuance to it. It's an art form, isn't it? It's not just that easy because it can really look a little wonky as well. You have to play with it. Again, Professor Shame comes in there and you go, "Oh, that didn't work, so I'll try again something different next year." And not every plant reacts the same way. For instance, I have a plant, Lysomachia salata, fireworks. And it is a very beautiful burgundy plant with yellow flowers that is extremely aggressive. It's
Oh,
actually a
I
North
think I
American
used to grow
native.
that one, I hated it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I really I like it a lot, but if it gets cut back, if it gets Chelsea chopped, and we'll talk about that in 2 seconds, it does not bloom as vigorously. Those blooms are smaller for me at least. And so I've learned, yeah, I get the bloom that I get with that one. If the deer take it to a Chelsea chop, something
That's
different.
different.
So you really have to play with the plants and know which ones respond really well. Another reason you could be doing this is also to create stockier, bushier plants that might not need staking. Doesn't
Yep.
mean that they aren't going to need staking, but you might take something like a 5 foot Veronicastrum and be able to bring it down to 3 feet by doing that early chopping, that early pre-pruning, and then you don't have to stake it. And I
Yeah.
mean, as long as you don't have like a devastating windstorm like we had 2 nights ago.
Oh.
So there it's a tool, right? It's a tool in your belt to do it. Now let's talk about Chelsea Chop. What is Chelsea Chop? Why is it called Chelsea Chop? Why is Chelsea involved?
Yeah, the Chelsea
Begin.
Flower Show is involved in everything that it can be involved in horticulturally. This is what so imagine you're a competitor or somebody who's going to exhibit at a flower show and you want things to be just so. Those people actually grow, a variety of the same plant at different stages so that whatever they put for those 5 days in London is going to look perfect. But the other thing that they can do which I've done, is to think ahead. When my garden was going to be on the Historic Garden Week in Virginia a few years ago, I had a good series of pansies that I had planted the year before. And about 6 weeks out, and I'd sort of experimented with this, that 6 weeks would probably do it. I took all of those down by half. And so they were in containers and somewhere in the ground, and they look like doo doo after I did that to them. And 6 weeks later, when 1,000 people were walking through the garden, they look spectacular.
You were like a mic drop moment. Well,
Yeah, it was
Chelsea
kinda.
comes at the same time every year. It's like the 3rd week in May. We went last year, didn't we, Les?
Yes, we did. We
And we're
drank
gonna
Pimm's.
yeah, and you can go in 2026 with me if you get on my mailing
Ooh,
list, so please do so that,
horticultural,
you can
baby.
find out horticultural. It's gonna, we're gonna be going there and into the southwest of England. It's or no, southeast of England. That's beside the point, but it happens the 3rd week in May, and that's when a lot of our perennials are starting to really take off, and so it's a good memory time to go ahead and give those perennials a chop at that point. It's still early enough in the season that they're going to react with vigor. Cuz if you wait later as the season goes on, too late. If you're well past July and you're like this thing's getting too big and too woody and you cut it, it is probably with the heat and the lack of moisture not going to thank you for that. So it's a really good idea to do it earlier in the season if you can once it's in that sort of vigorous stage and that's that classic Chelsea chop.
The last one that we'll talk about, so we've covered deadheading, we've covered pre-pruning, we've covered Chelsea chop, which is can be argued as, similar for different reasons. But the last one is a post prune, and there are 2 plants that jump to mind for me on this, and this is, the plant is bloomed. All we're doing is looking to have not something kind of crispy and ugly in the garden. If you want fresh growth
Yeah.
in your garden, you're like, Bring me back to May when everything was bright and
Yeah,
beautiful and
please
crystalline
take
and
me back.
yeah, please take me back because I am baking here in July and August, and you can take, the top third of these 2 particular perennials, and maybe you have some more examples, and just take it away, and what will happen is brand new growth, and my 2 favorite to do this on are Amsonia hubrichtii, which is the tall Amsonia. I bet any Amsonia would react to that very well, and then the Baptisia, which is the false indigo. So, the bright green, in this case, sort of almost glaucous new growth on this plant that was sort of looking a bit tatty before. And it's so easy. It takes 2 seconds. Throw the bits behind the plant or take it off to your compost pile, and you, in a few weeks, will get new growth.
I've never done it with Hubrichtii or Baptisia.
Oh, what have you done it with then?
Tabernet Montana, Amsonia Tabernet Montana. I do it every year because the alternative is Amsonia with these big seed pods hanging down and looking terrible, but it looks beautiful if it's this sort of big cushion. I just have
Mhm.
like a week or 2 of ugliness and then we're back to the races with it. So I do it with that. It's got to be after it blooms,
Yeah,
right? So after a spring bloomer after it blooms, because I'm going to say you do that with chrysanthemums, but that would be sort of in the Chelsea chop
that's a Chelsea
um,
chop pre-prune, yeah.
part of things.
Oh, I've got 2 more. I
Um,
just thought of 2 more.
oh, okay, cool.
A Stilby. Mine can look tatty because the Stilby are kinda needy. They need a constant supply of water,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that foliage gets crispy, the flowers are long gone. If you just take it all away, you got a hole in your garden, but it's gonna come back fresh, and then another one that will do that is columbine or the aquilegia.
Yes, that's true, and if you've got leaf miner in your columbine, that's a good way to sort of refresh those leaves because the leaf miners aren't moving as much in the summer, like they were. But there are some plants that's not gonna happen for. If your deer have just ravaged your hosta and you cut those hosta down to the ground and it's later in the season, they're like, "Yeah, I'm outta here. See you next spring."
Yeah, they might throw up a little something, but no.
With the aid of Professor Shame, figure it out. It's gonna
Yeah.
say, it might take you a little while. Now, I wanna talk about your technique for doing this, Les, because sometimes it's down to the ground. It's just a
Mhm.
flat, of what is it, short back and sides. But a lot of times when I'm doing a Chelsea chop, especially, I'm reaching down into the plant and I'm trying to do this at different levels. I don't want to just give it an overall straight, flat cut. I'm trying to reach in and undulate it and make those prunings a little bit more interesting. How about you?
Depends on if I'm going away on vacation. If you listen to our last episode, you can ravage your garden because you don't have to look at those at
That's
those terrible
right.
things that you did, and by the time you come back, it will begin to look better. So, it depends on my schedule, depends on the plant. I would say if I'm in a hurry, I'm grabbing a handful of Baptisia and just yeah, it's just gone, and I'm not worried about it. So it
Yeah, if
does
you were like
depend.
a public garden, it would be different, right?
Oh,
If you were
yes.
if yeah, people are coming through all the time, you don't want it to look like a deer just came through. So
And
if you
as a
can come
professional
down.
gardener for my clients, of course,
Yeah.
I could not do that. It had to be
Mm-mm.
artfully done, carefully done, unless you knew that they were going away for 2 weeks on vacation, in which case the direction to my crew were like, "Take the top third, don't worry about it." It just depends on the circumstance.
Right. So it means that you're giving the shears away and you're grabbing the pruners and you're going in, you're dipping in. And I think that that's true for a lot of different things. Sometimes it's better to create more texture because you're basically creating texture in your garden when you are moving in and you're cutting here and you're cutting there and you're cutting there, but you're not just going across the top.
Yeah.
And some plants need that. They need that to look good. And it's been interesting to see how the Chelsea chop this year on the long perennial bed that I have recently created, how it's worked with some plants and how it's worked with others. And yeah, that's I mean, again, this is all experience and that you have to experience for yourself because until you do that, you don't really understand how it works. You can hear it, you can read about it, but until you've sat with that plant for a season and seen how it reacts day to day, you really can't know. Am I
Yeah.
wrong? Am I being
No.
too judgy on that one?
No, no, absolutely, and, depends on your standards, depends on your vacation, depends on your learning curve, but, give it a
My
try if
standards are
something.
high.
I know. So
They're
high,
too
oh my
high.
god.
They're
But
so
TikTok,
high.
baby, we gotta.
That's right. We're moving towards 20 and we want to keep this at 20. So, yeah. Unless, of course, you want to listen to our very first sips of the garden mixer. And that's a 3-minute segment that we're doing for beginner gardeners on YouTube. So look that
Yeah,
up.
go and subscribe there, and thank you
And
very much.
that's not by subscription. You guys are the special people. And we're happy to have you here.
Yeah, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you.